Hi, y'all. This is Kristen Chenoweth.
Hi, I'm Gloria Stefan.
This is Sarah Bareilles.
Hi, I'm Patty Lapone.
This is Lin-Manuel Miranda. You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Welcome to another episode of the Theater Podcast, intimate personal conversations with some of theater's biggest names. I'm Alan Seals, and this episode is with Jana Robbins and Haley Swindal, who they reached out and I wanted to interview them very quickly. And we're actually releasing this episode at the end of a week, which we don't normally do, but I wanted to get this episode out very quickly because they're currently in the middle of a run at 54 Below of a special show that they put together. They're returning to the venue with their show called We Just Move On, where they did a successful run of it last summer. And it was so wildly popular that 54 Below asked them back, which they don't normally do. And they don't normally give people multiple performance nights either. They usually just give people one night to do a cabaret. But Jana and Haley, their show was so good and like it's all in the press. Like Sarah Bareilles went to the last one and Laura Osnes and so many others. It's a show about John Kander and Ebb, John Kander and Fred Ebb, who are primarily known for their stage musicals like Cabaret and Chicago, and they've even scored several movies, including Martin Scorsese's New York, New York. So it's great music in general, but as we do in this podcast, we get into their past, we get into who they are, and they are just two incredible people. And now, as you can tell from listening to their story, amazingly great friends as well. So I will let you get right into this. Please enjoy this episode with Jana Robbins and Haley Swindal.
Here you go. 1, 2, 3.
I'm here today with Jana Robbins and Haley Swindal, who are about to start their the second round of a very successful duo show, cabaret show at Feinstein 54 called We Just Move On, the songs of Kander and Ebb, which I think it starts February 5th, right, at 7 o'clock.
That's correct.
And this episode will come out just after February 5th. But then if you're listening, please run out right now. Get your tickets for February 12th, the last show, which will be at 7 o'clock as well, the following Tuesday. And this is now the second incarnation. Thank you both for being here, by the way.
We're thrilled to be here. And we're
Thank
thrilled
you.
to be coming back to 54 Below.
Why? What prompted this to do the show again? Because you did it the first time a year ago, right?
No, we did it in September. So that's less than 6 months ago, right?
Yeah, 6 months.
The show sold out and was so successful the first time that the truth of the matter is, before our first show ended, they had already offered us these dates to come back and do a return.
No kidding.
Yeah. It was exciting. I really mean it. They asked us like during a half hour of doing the show. We had already sold out both shows in September, and they said, we would love to have you back.
What is the process for those of us who don't know and have never done a cabaret? What is the process of putting this all together and getting it to Feinstein or getting it to another one of these venues where you can invite all your friends and invite your fans?
I'll start, but Haley has a lot to say about this too. Both Haley and I had already done our own solo shows there. I have a show called One Hell of a Ride. No, that wasn't the show I did.
You did. I'm still here.
Thank you. I do have a show, One Hell of a Ride. The songs of Cy Coleman, but it never played 54 Below. I did a show called I'm Still Here. And I had already done that at Feinstein's, and you had a show.
I did. I had two shows, Play to Win and Golden Girl, which I've done. I've been there 3 or 4 times over the last 5 since it's opened. And,
so we had this Feinstein's 54 Below relationship already, and it's our favorite club in New York,
Absolutely.
I have to say. There's a couple I haven't played, so I might change my mind if they decide to have Robbins and Swindal at their place. But really our favorite club, so we had never thought of taking it anywhere else. Now, as far as getting it booked there or creating the show,
Well, okay, let's go back first to creating the show.
Mm.
How did you two meet, and where did you come up with the idea?
I should start this one.
Go ahead. You start that one.
So Jana and I were both cast in a show off-Broadway, which is still currently running, called This One's for the Girls.
As a matter of fact, we just did a matinee before we came to you.
And you're about
We
to do
did.
another one this evening?
No,
you're done today?
it's only 2 shows a week.
2 shows a week. Perfect for me.
And me too. So I just, from the first day of rehearsal, I was like, that woman is going to be my best friend. I said to the other cast member who I knew, and I said, wow, I love that woman. She's awesome. And she produces. I want to produce and do produce, and I just loved her. So I had this idea, like, as we were going a little farther along in the rehearsal process and we got to know each other, we had similar styles, and I just really looked up to her style. And I had this idea because I've always loved Kander and Eb, and I turned to her and I said, we should do the rink, because I had always known the rink, and I thought, Liza Minnelli, Gita Rivera, and
So we started talking about that, and there is actually a lot of discussion about that in the show, and I'll let them hear the details of that. But that really was the beginning of it. And then Haley also came and saw me do an afternoon show with my friend Richard Skipper of Kander and Eb.
Mhm.
David Sabella sang in it, Karen Ziemba sang in it, I sang in it. And afterwards, again, she said to me, remember when I talked to you about we really ought to do the rink? And then little by little, we just decided, why don't we put together a show of their songs first before we would decide as actor-producers to actually do the full production of the rink.
Right. And we both loved about Kander and Eb that they kind of showcased the strength and simultaneous vulnerability of women, their characters.
Mhm.
And that's something we both gravitate to as women. And
They're both men.
What?
They're both men.
What do you mean?
Kander and Eb, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're both men.
But the
they
women
write-
that they
yeah.
write for.
They really do. And so ultimately, when we started working on the show, I took a look at the songs that I had a great affinity toward. We're not doing "and then they wrote." That is not
No,
what
no.
this is at all. This is a story of 2 women from different generations who come to New York with a dream of working in New York, and how we are fulfilled and what the challenges are. And ultimately, Haley's a mother and I'm a grandmother. And so talking about the trajectory really of our entire lives is what the show ends up being about through the music of Kander and Eb.
That's really interesting. I follow Laura Bedanti on Instagram, as
I love
I'm
her.
sure
I love
a
her too.
Very
bajillion people do, and she talks about I'm a new dad, relatively. I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and
I have a 2-year-old.
yeah, with the big hair. that you
Uh-huh.
tell me about?
Yeah, 2.5.
So I guess that's a question for you. Is it coming from Laura Benanti? She's kind of like ripped back the walls a little bit for me of how hard it is. I didn't even think about this. How hard it is to be a mother of a young child while having a schedule that takes you out at night every single night if you're working, right?
I always called, and forgive me, Eric, if you're listening. My son is grown, and he's giving my 2 granddaughters. I always said my son was a closet case, and what I meant by that was that I had him out on national tour with me
Oh,
from 16 months to 26 months with my first Broadway show, and I would only get rooms that had these big walk-in closets, so that he kind of had a separate room from me. Because at that point, I couldn't afford the 2-bedroom suites and that sort of thing. But I had Eric on the road with me a lot.
wow.
And trying to be a mom and a good mom
Yeah.
and pursue your career and your dreams isn't easy. And
I think it's different for everyone, and it's hard for everyone. For me
Mhm.
with my daughter, it's been, that's why this show of This One's for the Girls has been such a gift, because it's a couple of times a week and it's in the city. And I've been primarily working in New York, which has been great because Lily's in school now and all of that. So yeah, it's incredibly difficult, but you just cherish and are grateful for the time you do have. And I think it's important for her to also see that mommy goes to work, mommy has a dream, because so that she can follow in those footsteps as well. So
Wow. And
it's all a balance.
Is there like, do you have guilt? Do you deal with?
Oh
do you
my
have to overcome
God.
guilt?
Every day of my life, mother guilt, yes. But
I have dad guilt when I work my 9 to 5.
Right.
Right.
But then I just remind myself that it's about the quality of the time that you spend with them and not always the quantity, and that I make sure that she's surrounded by love and when I'm not there and people that she loves and is comfortable with. And it works for us.
I mean, I look back and I people can ask me some things, and my son would never say that he feels this way because he always tells me that I was a great mom, and he's the proof in the pudding because he's a great kid.
Yes.
But no, I do look back and I think that ultimately, having reached the age that I have now, that family is everything, hon. Family is everything, and your loved ones. And I do look back and think at times that it was all about what I could get and what I could accomplish in my career. And I love my career. And so I'm happy that I had the opportunity to do it all. Just a little bit suffer here and a little bit suffer there, probably. But I think as long as you put your heart and your soul into your parenting as well as you do your career, we're lucky that we can have a little piece of all of it.
That's beautiful. And so speaking of careers, let's talk about how you both got into yours. I want to know, like, what were you two as young children? How were you like, and where did you grow up?
Well, this is on our show as well. And because I asked her on stage why she came to New York, and then we talk about it. I grew up in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and my mother used to take dance class with Gene Kelly.
Really?
And she had a big crush on Gene Kelly.
Who
and
wouldn't?
always wanted, that's correct.
Yeah.
Well, my dad kind of looked like Gene Kelly. And she never went into having a career. She met my father when she was 14. They married at 19. And I just am my mother. So I'm living her dreams, and she was very supportive of me. I was in all my high school musicals. I majored in theater, went to a women's college called Stevens College in Columbia, Missouri, came straight to New York, and without going into any more, the rest is history. My entire life and career has been being on stage as an actor, and now I wrote this show, I've directed this show, and I'm also a Broadway producer now. So I love what I do.
And so you always knew from the very beginning. It was never a question for you that you wanted to do anything else.
This is all I ever wanted to do. They say I came out singing and dancing. I'm
in your playpen, huh?
in my playpen. When the Pennsylvania polkas would come on, I was up holding the bars, rocking it. And Mom knew from the beginning. Never. This was it. This is who I was.
Wow. Haley, what about you?
So I come from a family that is not remotely in theater, but is in a form of entertainment. My grandfather was George Steinbrenner, who owned the New York Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
So my family is a big sporting family. I grew up around, it was going to be a good night in my house if the Yankees won, maybe not so much if we lost. So they didn't know a whole lot about theater, but I was exposed to theater because the Yankees are in New York. So when I was growing up in the 90s, I would come up for the postseason, was when the Yankees were always winning. And I would kind of sneak out and go to open calls, and I'd bring like my freshman year picture and learn kind of the ropes. It's always what I wanted to do. My grandfather and both my grandparents and my parents exposed me to Broadway from a young age. My grandfather produced on Broadway. He produced Applause. So there was this love of Broadway in my family, even though there wasn't necessarily, nobody else was in theater. Nobody else sings. I just kind of came out singing, and, they'd be watching the baseball game and I'd be singing Don't Cry for Me, Argentina on the top of the stairs. And, oh God, she's singing again. But then eventually they got used to it. And I watched old movies growing up and in the golden age of Hollywood. And I knew that I wanted to be singing. And to me, that was New York, because that's where I grew up. My grandfather used to stay at the Regency. And so I would go down into Feinstein's and watch Barbara Cook and Rosemary Clooney and all of those people sing as a little girl, and just, that's what I want to do. And my grandfather always called me Broadway. So the last thing he ever said to me was, I love you, Broadway. So I knew I had to get there, and I did. But it's interesting in the family that I'm from trying to explain theater, because my first Broadway role was a swing. And they're like, what is that? You're not going to perform every night? What is that? What does that mean? And I said, well, is it better to be the second catcher for the New York Yankees, or is it better to be the first catcher for the farm team in the middle of Staten Island?
Good.
And so they finally, so everything is like an analogy for them. But yes, so my story is a bit different, but ultimately, yes, all I ever wanted to do was be on stage.
But you were telling me off mic that you grew up in Florida, right?
I did, yes.
Tampa.
So you grew up in Tampa.
The Yankees spring train in Tampa.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So that's the connection down
So that's
there.
where everybody, my family never lived in New York full time. My grandfather wanted our family to be in Florida.
And you just came up here whenever, I guess.
During the playoffs and for games. And I just I would sneak off to the open calls and try and figure it out myself and, get up at 5 a.m. and be like, hey guys. So, yeah.
That's great. I love
random.
I really love how some of this stuff comes together and people find their way onto the Broadway stage. It's so totally random and haphazard, and it gives more merit to the saying that it's like, what is it, 1/3 talent, 1/3, what is the thing? 1/3 talent. Yeah, well, the luck is the last thing. Yeah.
Luck's a big part of it.
Yeah, 1/3 talent, 1/3 something that I can't remember.
Probably perseverance and courage.
Right.
Memory would be my thing.
Right.
Yeah, 1/3 memory, which I don't have, and then 1/3 luck. Yeah. And so now, Jana, you were talking about producing. You've been, your Broadway debut in 1974, right?
Oh my God, he gives dates.
For Good News.
Yeah, that is Good News with
News.
Alice Faye and John Payne. I had only been in New York a short time. The first audition I ever had was for Aldonza in the National Company of Man of La Mancha, and I got it. And I was 21 years old. And then the first Broadway show was Good News with Alice Faye and John Payne. And that's the one I was talking about. I used the word schlepper because we'll get on to some other things. So I was schlepping, a baby around the country with me while I was doing Good News.
Oh, wow. Wow. So yeah, you used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you did 6 shows up till 2000 as an actor. And then the first producer credit I could find was Little Women in 2005, right?
That's really true. Yeah. I was on Broadway in Gypsy. I was covering Tyne Daly as Mama Rose, and I was on stage in that all the time, but I was actually playing Mazeppa, the bump it with a trumpet stripper, on most nights. But I was on a lot. And while I was doing that, I actually started raising a lot of money for my son's private school. So I would get all my friends. I would call everybody I knew in Broadway shows. I'd write the show. We'd all sing. I'd even raise the money for the bake sale. I'd raise a lot of money for the school. And all of a sudden, also when the AIDS epidemic hit in the 80s, during Gypsy, I was raising a lot of money for Broadway Cares. Actually, it was Equity Fights AIDS then. And I was producing major AIDS benefits. And little by little, I realized what I was doing was producing. So I started small and did some producing out in California. I was out there for a while and came back. My first major Broadway, what made me a Broadway producer, was Little Women. And I was mentored by a wonderful producer named Randall Reggett, who I miss very much. He passed away at 55 years old. And I've been going ever since as a producer as well. It's only recently that I've actually come back to performing at the same time. Was in about a 10-year period. My father passed away 15 years ago, and I moved my mother up to New York. And I didn't want to tour, and I had done a lot of tours, Footloose, Gypsy pre-Broadway, and other tours, and I wanted to stay in New York. So that's really when the producing started to really move forward, because I could stay still in theater and not travel as much if I wasn't in a Broadway show.
Mm-hmm. And you moved your mom up from
and
Pennsylvania.
I moved my mom up, and also we say this in the show, I live with my mother. The truth is my mother lives with me. She is 2 months shy of 97 years old.
Wow, that's great.
Haley was over visiting at the house last night, and we were singing together.
She's amazing.
We had a great time.
When you were saying, that she never really, you are your mother. She didn't make it onto the Broadway stage herself. When you started to go down this path and made it on Broadway, did you see a transformation in her? Was she living vicariously through you as a stage mom, even though you were already legal and left the house?
I don't think of my mother actually as a stage mother. She's just always been 100% supportive of me doing it because she didn't do it. So she was always there. She sent me to dancing school. She was the one out there clapping when I got the leads in high school. She is the one that said to my dad, oh, yeah, she wants to major in theater. She's going to go. My dad drove me here, and I stayed at a woman's hotel, at the Barbizon Hotel. A ladies' hotel is what I stayed in when I first came. They were just always supportive, and then they flew and saw everything I did.
Wow. That's crazy. And okay, so Haley, you say you're producing the show at Feinstein's too? Are you co-producing the show, or
Jana wrote and directed it, and we produced it together.
So you're producing it together. So is this your first foray into producing as well?
No, I've been producing for maybe 4 or 5 years. I started kind of when I first moved here producing my friends who were our writers, producing their work. I did something at Manhattan Repertory Company. I put something up at the 24-Hour Play Festival and Midtown International Theater Festival, the works of my friends that I'd been working with in college who were in grad school at the time at NYU. And I found that I love putting people in projects together as well as performing. And I'd always thought, well, how do I bridge these two things? Can I do these two things at once? And people told me no until I met this one who does it pretty well. There's a lot, so then I got farther into it. The first piece that I co-produced was a piece called The Lion off-Broadway starring Benjamin Scheuer, which
yes, I know
I was
Ben.
a co-producer with Jamie Drury and Dan Shaheen on that through Ava Price, which I loved. And I've invested in several pieces and joined Jana with a few of her pieces, actually. So I'm dipping heavier into it now than I ever did before, but it's something I always knew I wanted to do.
How do you explain a producer to your baseball parents?
Oh, my grandfather produced on Broadway, so they get it.
Oh, they get that part.
They get that part.
Yeah.
And who did your grandfather produce?
He produced. What do you mean? Oh, he produced
the link to Fiddler on the Roof, which I'm working
produced
on now.
George M. with Joel Grey.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It all comes full circle.
No, it really does.
Oh
and now
my
I'm
gosh.
producing the Yiddish Fiddler, directed by Joel Grey.
Which I invested in.
That's ridiculous. So you guys have been like friends and castmates and co-producers.
Just like everything.
and-
We've only known each other
But
a year
we've
and a
only
half.
know each other slightly less than a year and a half.
Crazy.
What?
And what has
That's crazy.
we met doing this one's for the girls a year ago,
October.
September.
September.
We
yeah.
went into rehearsal in September, right?
September 2017.
And all of
2018.
this has been created since saying hello and meeting one another. And there's just like, I've never seen anything, what people say, but of course I would allow the audience to judge for themselves. But I feel this way, is that I hope that there's a talent in a force called Jana Robbins. And
Of
there's
course there is.
definitely a talent in a force called
I have to
Haley
keep up
Swindal.
with her.
But the truth of the matter is the two of us together absolutely create something that's much bigger than 1 and 1 equals 2.
Mhm.
It becomes something else. And that's what's so exciting about doing this Kander and Ep show. And not only are we coming back to 54 Below, we just played it at the theater in Connecticut. We're going down to the Straz Center in Tampa. We hope to have dates in Tokyo and do this other places as well.
That's ridiculous. A year and a half. Yeah. When I'm watching you two together, your banter, I would have assumed you've known each other for a decade.
No.
No.
Like just how you walked in the door earlier when we all met. I was like, oh man, these two are friends for years.
Yeah.
It just seems that way.
Yeah.
But we've created so much. Yeah, the impact it's amazing to have two souls come together and then all of a sudden, wow, we didn't realize our coming together would create all these things.
It's exciting.
Do you see yourself the two of you doing more production together, like producing work, co-producing in the future?
Yeah.
We're already doing that.
Are you?
We're already doing that. Haley did invest in Fiddler, but that's because she's busy working to come on another show that I will most likely join her on. And then I have 2 shows opening up in London. The Astonishing Times at Timothy Cratchit at the Hope Mill Theatre. We'll do a developmental production there. Haley's on that, and another show called The Jazz Age. Both will have productions in London this coming season. And Haley's on them.
Mhm.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so, do you enjoy the producing more than performing? I mean, Jana, you said that you left it for a while and then now you're coming back to acting.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say to you, and I guess I just forgot that's where I was going, is that I was producing for quite a while. But as mother has aged and aged and aged, as much as I love producing, and I do, it truly doesn't matter whether I'm directing it, producing it, starring in it. To me, it's the same thing. If I'm creating great theater, I'm very fulfilled. However, having said that, when you're on stage and you're acting and you're singing, you're using your talent, your heart, your soul in the moment, in the moment, in the moment. And I know, given that Mom is 97, let's be honest, my mother's not going to be with me forever. And I felt very strongly that I needed to, while I was producing, get myself back on stage just a little bit so that when I no longer have Mom, I can find some comfort really in sharing my heart and soul and talent on stage. And that's why I wrote about a year and a half ago, Jana Robbins, I'm Still Here.
Mhm.
Because at that point I said, well, do you know why I'm calling my show I'm Still Here? by that point, I really wasn't performing that much. Everybody thought of me as a producer. I said, well, it's because I'm still here. And right after I did I'm Still Here, actually, I believe that's why Bill Franzblau, the producer of This One's for the Girls, heard of me. And when he was looking to cast a particular part in This One's for the Girls that I play, and he called me. If I had never written I'm Still Here, I wouldn't be in This One's for the Girls, and I wouldn't have met Haley Swindal.
Crazy.
So it was my taking that initiative to put myself back on stage.
Haley, do you think you want to continue acting primarily or producing, or
I'm
do you
not
want to get into
sure. At
directing?
the moment, I don't mix the two. I don't act in things I really produce. But as long as I am, I don't intend to stop my Broadway career. I'm going back into a show, but more on that. I'm going into a show on Broadway soon, and we'll go into that later. But maybe. But it's not official yet. But I love producing. I love being. But listen, I mean, what's so great about actors is that we lead with our hearts, and I believe the best producers lead with their hearts, and they follow the passion with their hearts. And that's what I admire about Jana. Certainly, is that the projects that she comes onto, she just pours her heart and soul into them. And whether you're acting or producing, it's really, as long as you have to throw your heart behind it.
It's the creative spirit. It's the creative spirit juices inside of us we get to use.
I love that you just said that actors lead with their hearts. I've been doing this podcast for a couple months now. Really, I'm still a young podcast, and the more I talk with people, what I'm finding is the people who are the most successful in this business are the people who just don't care. It's going to come out the wrong way. You don't care what people think, but at the same time, you have to, right? Because it's like you're a group of people that needs validation. That's why we're in this in the first place.
Right.
But at the end, like you put yourself out there, and I guess it's a comfortability with being vulnerable.
Sure.
That most people don't have at all in this business. I mean, not in this business, but in the world in general. And I think it's very unique to this business to be in touch with your emotion, to be in touch with who you are on a much deeper level.
Well, it almost helps to define you. In some ways, it can be very therapeutic. I mean, acting class or playing a role, every role I've ever played, who I became, what I found inside of me, what aspects of my spirit that I didn't know, they were all brought out in me by the different roles that I've played. And that's why I said to you that as much as I love producing, I knew that when I lose my mom, I need to be on stage using that, sharing my tears and my laughter and my joy and that sort of thing on stage. Because somebody would say that doesn't know anything about acting, they go, well, are you acting now? Are you acting? And I go, see, real acting isn't acting. Real acting is going deep inside of yourself and finding those real, true emotions and putting the right ones with the right character in the right moment. But I have always been able to show things better on stage than I do in life at times. You hide things as a person to protect yourself in real life. But if you're really leaving it on the stage, it gives you the opportunity to put it all out.
It's a very brave thing to do, to be vulnerable, right?
Oh, extremely.
And I think for me as an actor, my career has really started to take off more as I had this idea for my life. I'm going to do this by this age, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. Well, the universe has other plans while you have plans, right? So it's really just been about embracing where I am now, who I am now, gratitude for where I am and the work I do have, and kind of just staying open and vulnerable in life that has brought in so many great things, as opposed to I'm not on Broadway by this point, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. I don't focus on what I don't have. I focus on the opportunities that are presenting themselves to me and what I hope to create, and I try to manifest. As
a new mom, is it your first child now?
Yes.
Yeah. So as a new mom, have you as the layer of emotional vulnerability is kind of been...
God, absolutely. Oh my God. She's the joy of my world. I mean, I just even talking about her, I get emotional. So, but yes, Yeah, and in my last show that I did, Golden Girl, I had a whole section to her, a Rosemary Clooney song, I'll Be There With You Whenever, and Baby Mine, which is kind of our song.
Mm-hmm.
Now she sings them back to me or says, Mommy, my song, don't sing. So we're in a different place now. But no, she's
only
wonderful.
2 years old, and you told me that one day recently she said, Mommy, my solo.
My solo, give me the microphone, grab the hairbrush. But the last Rent Live a few nights ago, she... during One Song Glory, she grabbed her little fake guitar. And she'd never heard the song, but by the end of the song, one song, da-da. I mean, it was like, it was just like, what are you doing? You've never heard that song before. By the second minute of the song, she knew the song. She's very musical.
That's a smart
and that's
kid.
the greatest gift that I could give her. Because for me, my music, singing and listening to music and being involved in this world is very, very important to me, and for her to be able to have that gift is really exciting.
I wonder, like, there's studies and stuff, and I don't read much about these, but I'm interested, like the children who are like they're inside you for 9 months,
Absolutely.
and hearing you sing, and sometimes they're on stage with you, while you're still growing them.
I did a 54 Below show with her. I did 3 readings. And I did Secret Garden at Lincoln Center. So I was like dancing around. I mean, I was, and then at 9 months, I went into a studio and did this major recording, and I could barely fit behind the microphone. She's like, Mom, what are you doing? She'd kick at me because I was like crunched, and I knew she loved, and like I saw Color Purple, and she would kick more because she loved gospel music. There was certain music she liked, and then there was other music not so much.
Oh, that's
She'd be
crazy.
quiet during,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, she was always exposed to that. I was always around seeing shows and out and about and singing. And
Wow. What's some of the feedback that you guys have received after the first round of Just Move On?
Well, one of the things I told you, of course, was this before we even got the first show up, that we were invited back because we were such a hit. But the validation beyond that is that we were chosen to be one of the top 10 cabaret shows of 2018. I think Theater Pizzazz put us in that category, and
Yep.
we were really happy to have that. Word of mouth is that our show's really good.
Well, I read these press articles that like Sarah Bareilles was there,
Yes.
and Laura, not Laura Benanti, Laura
Laura
Osnes.
Osnes,
Laura
yeah.
Osnes showed up
Uh-huh.
and everything. Yeah, so I guess
Frank Wildhorn was there.
yeah, he was there.
All kinds of people.
It's a good group. We've got
Yeah.
a good group coming
It's
this time
exciting.
too.
fun. Have you heard buzz about this current round? Did you think you're gonna why only 2 shows? Why not? If it's this popular, why not do more?
Well, I'm not clear that Feinstein's offered us more than
I think
2
we wanted to do
shows.
2 shows. We've both got a million projects going on. I've got stuff coming in
Yeah,
after
right
this.
now, I'm going into a preview start on the Yiddish Fiddler
Right.
on February the 11th, and trying to keep the commitment and do the show at Feinstein's and produce that at the same time is also really difficult. So right now, I say thank God it's 2 shows, and we'd be perfectly happy to bring it back
Mhm.
again.
I love doing these shows because, as an actor or whatever, you are given, this is your script, these are your lines, these are your things. This is like, we get to create our own thing. So to me, it's kind of like the dessert, you know what I mean? So it's this special thing, you get to do it. For me, I like to go back between 6 months and a year. I don't like to go right back. It's been 6 months, which is like the minimum time. But I love it. It's just like, it fuels me. When I was a swing on Jekyll and Hyde, I was grateful. I was on Broadway. I was on the road for 7 months, and I was like, what do I do? What do I do? I'm not performing. So that's when I started, okay, I'm going to start putting together these shows, and they really are what we want to say our way, right? That's what's so exciting. Jana's crafted this show, which is just, she's done an incredible job.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm just
Well,
saying.
Everybody, please get your tickets now for February 12th at 7 o'clock, Feinstein's 54 Below. If anybody wants to connect with you online, how can they find you? What are your social handles?
Facebook, Haley Swindal, Twitter, Swindal, Instagram, H Swindal.
Well, wow. And they can find me on Facebook because I'm definitely there, and they can find me on my website, which is janarobbins.com.
All right. Well, you can get more of me, theater_podcast on Instagram
We
and
love
Twitter.
your podcast.
Thank you. Rate and review it.
I
Share it.
will.
Share it. Send me an email, feedback@thetheaterpodcast.com. This is produced by Jillian Hockman, and music you're hearing right now is by Jukebox the Ghost, friends of ours. Thank you, guys. Jana and Haley, thank you so much.
Thank
this has
you.
been a
Thank
wonderful
you.
chat.
It's
Thank you
fun.
so much.
you.
Take a deep breath, make the road a little little colorful.